What's going on, all you Minties? Kicking off this week is my advanced overview of the Empyre Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and the book market on November 16th or 17th, depending on where you get your books. What we're looking at here is the direct market cover by Jim Cheung. To your left is the standard edition cover. So the one on the right here is the one that's only available at your online retailers like cheapgraphicnovels.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, in-stock trades, organic price books, Walt's Comic Shop, Reed's Comics, or your local comic store. And the one on the left is available everywhere, including Amazon, Walmart, Kmart. Is Kmart still around? I don't even know if you can buy books there. I don't think they're around. Forget that part. Anyway, so let's take a closer look at this omnibus. One thing you may have noticed is the actual title of Avengers Fantastic Four Empyre. I really like that logo. It's a pretty cool design, mainly the Avengers 4 logo. You see the 4 inside of that A. It's pretty cool. And then you see the words Empire break away as he gets towards the end of the word. On the cover are two characters that play a huge role in this gigantic crossover. And I say gigantic, I mean it. It's a big book. Here's what the spine looks like. I'm sure the spine of the standard edition will have a different character down there, but in this one we get Koi, who is a Katati, and I'll be explaining a little bit about what the story is about. And in the back here is a picture of Hulkling. So again, he was one of the characters in the front, and the Star Sword there. Now, let's take a look underneath this dust jacket. So, good news if you're only going to get the direct market cover, because underneath it is the standard edition cover in full spread pages mode. That is a gorgeous piece by Jim Cheung, and it makes me miss his internal artwork. Very much looking forward to that Young Avengers omnibus. Now, let's open this book up, talk a little bit about the story, talk about the artwork in here, and then, of course, the build of this big omnibus. Let's get this big book open and talk about the premise and show off the artwork. Here we have some blue book end paper. Empyre, again with the logo, really dig that. Your table of contents. And this is your credits and table of contents, because when you get to the actual issues, you're not going to see the credits on each of the issues like you would normally in a monthly comic. So you have incoming, and here are all the writers and artists. That's one of my favorite parts about incoming, is that all these writers and artists work together to kick off this event. Then you have the Road to Empire, and I'll talk about what it collects here in a little bit. But to kind of give you an idea, here are what the credits look like and your table of contents in the way that the books are collected in here. So you do have the main event, and then you have all the other miniseries afterwards, and then the crossover issues. And I'll talk about the importance of some of those, and then of course if they make sense where they are to be read. So here it is, kicking it off with incoming. We meet this character right here, the Masked Raider. Who is he? He's a mysterious character that's looking at a dead body, and not only is he looking at it, he is being blamed for killing that dead body. And that dead body is somebody very important to this event, but more important to a lot of comic book historians if you're a fan of something called the Dark Phoenix Saga. So it's a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm going to talk about just a little bit of a spoiler, because it does set up the event and it shows how much history goes into the making of this particular crossover. Alright, so throughout the Marvel Universe, all these characters are connecting, trying to figure out the mystery of this dead body, who the Masked Raider was, and what it has to do with what's going on in outer space. We get a little tidbits here of what's going on in Billy and Teddy's life, so that's Wiccan and Hulkling. And one of my favorite things, we get Night Thrasher, the Blue Marvel there. It's a lot of using a lot of characters. I think Al Ewing has a lot to do with that. We get Nova, Richard Rider there. But all of this serves as a setup, because they're trying to find out who this dead body was. And then eventually Dr. Richards recognizes who it is. So he's like, wait a minute, this isn't a human being. This happens to be a pink Kree warrior who goes by the name of General Beldan. And if you're familiar with that name, it's because you may have read the Dark Phoenix Saga. And with, of course, General Beldan, that means that somewhere out there has to be Warlord Raxor, who was the Scroll Warrior. So during the Dark Phoenix saga, Uatu, the Watcher, set up a Kree representation and a Skrull representative to go and witness this huge event. And those were two of the characters there. And they're trying to figure out why, if it is indeed Raxor that killed him, or if something else happened. And there's all this wonderful artwork in here. Then, of course, you got to tie it into all the X-Men, what's going on there. But the main characters that play a huge role in this are the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. Would have loved to have seen some more of the Blue Marvel. So, as it turns out that it's not Raxor that did it. Something else caused the death of Beldan. And Raxor dies turning into a plant. So at first, the heroes, including Jessica Jones, Captain Marvel, the Blue Marvel, and Mr. Fantastic think, well, he must be playing a trick. And Mr. Fantastic's like, no, he's really dead. Something else is going on. And then we get something huge here, where the Hulkling has decided to take up the Star Sword and lead the Skrulls in the Kree Empire on a big war that's coming to Earth. The final war, as he likes to call it. So that's the setup. So who is this final war with? Well, the more you read it, the more you get to find out that the final war is actually with the Katati, not the broccoli-headed people. I've been told, or I've seen comments on my videos where they got confused with the broccoli heads that the Dark Phoenix killed. No, we're done talking about the Dark Phoenix. Now we're talking about the Katati. So we're talking about the Celestial Madonna. We're talking about the Katati Swordsman. Characters that appear throughout the pages of the Avengers. But I think this issue right here, this is the Road to Empire Kree-Skrull War. It talks about the history of the Kree-Skrull War. Talks about the Katati's role in all of this, where they've been on Earth. And I think this is a wonderful setup. And it's done really cool because you see a family, or what they're pretending to be a human family, turns out to be Skrull spies. And that takes us to Empire Zero Avengers and Empire Zero Fantastic Four. In Zero Avengers, you find out who is behind the murder of Beldan and Raskor, and it's none other than the Katati, but they're being led by a new savior, if you will. This is a really cool page with a sentry, with some kind of plant creature, not the sentry, but a Kree sentry. It's being controlled by some kind of plant creature. So, in here we meet Sequoia, who is the son of the Katati swordsman, who comes back in this, and Mantis, the Celestial Madonna. So long before she joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, not the movies, the actual DNA run of the Guardians of the Galaxy, she played a big role in the Avengers. And they had a kid, and that's who this is. He wants to be called Koi, and he is leading the Katati. But he says we need to band together. All of Earth's heroes need to band together because there's a huge crisis that's coming here. Not a DC crisis, but a big war that's coming here. And of course, he's talking about Hulkling and his armada of Kree and Skrull warriors. So of course, the heroes are down here on Earth, and they're like, okay, we're going to put a stop to this no matter who stands in our way. Of course, we get a small little blip as to who's going to stand in their way, and then we dive right into Empire number 0, Fantastic Four. So this really serves as the purpose to put the Fantastic Four out in space. They're at a casino. They free a couple of... Actually, they free a couple of slaves in here because there's two little kids that are being used as warriors. There's a Kree kid and a Skrull kid. So you have Joven here, who is your little Kree child, and you have Nakala, who is your Skrull child. And they are both saved by the Fantastic Four. But this really, like I said, serves as a purpose to get them to be where Hulkling is so they can start talking some sense in the Hulkling to see exactly what's going on. And that's your setup. So there's a lot of history, and I see a lot of confusion out there because there is a lot of history. A lot of people don't even know who the Katati was, but they're these plant-like creatures that played a big role in the Avengers past and in the Fantastic Four's past. But that's your main villain. And like I said, I think that issue of the Kree-Skrull War Empire Prelude really does a good job of catching you up to speed. Now, the main artist, I love the way that this is done, by the way. R.B. Silva is one of the artists on one of the issues number 0, and you also have Pepe Larraz setting up the other issue number 0. So it's kind of like the House and Powers of X setup. But the main artist on the event is Valerio Schitti. Now that's the setup. There's huge fights, intergalactic fights. Of course, there are misunderstandings, because what is a big fight without misunderstandings between heroes? And I'll talk a little bit about the miniseries later on. But that's all the spoilers I'm going to be talking about. You can find out how all this ends up, what ends up happening to Hulkling, what ends up happening to Koi. Are they really the ones behind all this, or is somebody else pulling the strings? You can find out all that stuff. I love that picture of Ghost Rider with the Ghost Quinjet. So, let's talk about the content, because this collects, like you saw, Road to Empire, Kree Skrull War, Empire 0 Avengers, Empire 0 Fantastic Four, Empire 1 through 6, the 6-issue miniseries, or the event, the Aftermath Avengers number 1, the Fallout Fantastic Four, which is the Aftermath Fantastic Four, really, Lords of Empire, Emperor Hulkling, Celestial Messiah number 1, Swordsman number 1, Empire X-Men 1 through 4, who are written and drawn by different creators, so all 4 issues are done by somebody else, Savage Avengers number 1, Empire Captain America, the 3-issue miniseries, Empire Avengers 1, 2, and 3, X-Men 10 through 11, Fantastic Four 21 through 23, Captain Marvel 18 through 21, Immortal She-Hulk number 1, Web of Venom Empire's End number 1, and Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda 7 through 8, as well as the Empire Handbook number 1. This isn't a spoiler or anything, but here is how they collect the variants on the opposite side of the main covers. So that's where you're going to find most of the variants as thumbnails. No really any splash page variants in this. The main covers are done by Jim Chung. So there is more collected in here, which I'll get to. Since we've talked about this event already, I'm going to go ahead and skip some of the pages. So kicking off the mini-series with Emperor Hulkling, number 1 here. Talking about his side of things, his relationship with Billy. I love the fact that he's wearing a Lila Cheney t-shirt. Yeah, intergalactic rock star. You have the Celestial Messiah here. This is the one shot, and all of these can be read before the series even starts, before the main Empire event starts, but I don't suggest it because they spoil some things that will happen later on, and I suggest reading them after you read the event, just showcasing some of the artwork from different series. This is the Swordsman miniseries. This is what the artwork looks like in the Avengers. This is the one that's done by Carlos Magno. I don't know what this man is doing, but I just did the Avengers Mech Tech review a couple of weeks ago, and I fell in love with his artwork, mainly his dinosaurs. And I didn't realize at the time that he had also done this miniseries. And it's interesting because it also features the Savage Land. So he gets to draw giant dinosaurs in this too. His artwork is awesome, and it's so cool to see it in oversized format. Like I said, I don't know what this man is doing, but somebody give him a Kazar series, because he is a badass artist. I love the way that he draws giant reptilian creatures, and even the creatures like the Katati or the Skrulls and Kree that show up in here. They're done really awesome. And here's Captain America in his own little solo story, how he's dealing with some of the things going on Earth, handling it by himself. This one's interesting because this one is drawn by Ariel Olivetti, whose artwork I'm used to being something with computer graphics, something that looks like out of Doom. He did the artwork on Punisher War Journal, for example, and his artwork looked like he did it heavily on computer, so it's interesting to see him, what I assume this is hand-drawn, so it's a big, different look to his art that I'm used to. This is the Savage Avengers, which is really just Conan Empire, really. I think Venom shows up here, but this is what the artwork looks like in that. And then this is some of the X-Men series, which I've covered when talking about the Dawn of X, because they've collected Empire in the Dawn of X trade paperbacks. And 4 issues. And then the X-Men issues here by Lionel Francis Yu. The book, by the way, retails for $125 and has 1,424 pages. Not as big as, for example, the book that we talked about yesterday, the Justice League Dark, but it's a big book. The Captain Marvel issues and the Fantastic Four issues are the only ones that I'm kind of divided on, but I don't know if I would have liked them in between issues of Empire, because something important does happen in the pages of Captain Marvel that sets up a new character that just appears in Empyre. But I feel like it really would have taken away from the main story if I had read issues of Captain Marvel in between. I mean, there is a reason why we have this as a collected edition and not in publishing order. This is done in what they suggest, a reading order. And I don't know, maybe one issue of Captain Marvel would have been cool in there, but then the lead up to that issue would have been taken all the way in the back to read. I don't know if I would have liked that. So I'm kind of torn about that and the Fantastic Four. And I mainly say the Fantastic Four because some background things that happen, but to me, feels like a new Fantastic Four reunion with Wolvie and Spidey showing up. Then you get a little bit of Ghost Rider and Hulk in there, but you can find out exactly what I mean. Now you get the Aftermath issues back here, all the way in the back, the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. And for once, they're actually a happy ending issues. This is the Web of Venom issue right here. And then you get the Many Deaths of Jennifer Walters, the one-shot here. Which takes us to the handbook. So the handbook is back here. I love that they add this stuff in case you're wondering who some of these characters are. If you want to get yourself familiar with the names, this is the kind of stuff that I loved looking at when I was a kid. I wish we had collected editions back then. I wish we had the internet back then for many different reasons. But if you don't know who these characters are and you want to come back here to check out, what their abilities are, where they first came from when they first appeared, look no further than the handbook, because everybody that shows up in here, I'm not going to show everything because there are some spoilers, are back here. Now, this is really interesting. This is what I couldn't wait to talk about, because this is the first omnibus I've ever seen them do this. So during Empyre, unfortunately, for many reasons, we had a pandemic. We had the COVID come, and, it shut down everybody. The entire world was shutting down. And a lot of miniseries that they had planned got canceled. So this is the only place you're going to be able to get these. I don't think they're ever going to do a trade of these. This is a really cool way to collect them. So here we have Empyre Spider-Man, Empyre Thor, Empyre Squadron Supreme, Empyre Storm Ranger, Empyre The Invasion of Wakanda, Empyre Ghost Rider, and Empyre Strike Force number 10. Sorry, these are... number 10 is just a crossover. But they weren't finished. For example, Spider-Man here. Oh, awesome. It's a comic. Awesome. This is cool. This is stuff that's never been published. I think they may have released issue 1 digitally, but by the time you get to issue 2, so they even cover the variants here. Issue 2 didn't even get the inks on some pages. Didn't get the colors. You get the script, and you get the finished artwork, and then you get the unfinished artwork, which is just the layout sometimes. But at least they try to finish it out. And then, of course, that story didn't get finished. See what I mean? Just the thumbnail sketches from the artist. And there's Empyre Spider-Man number 3, but they didn't even get to the script of that. So sadly, it never got finished. The title got pulled. Same thing with Thor. This is Empyre Thor. I don't think even issue 1 got finished, if I'm not mistaken. I was looking at this. I didn't get to read them. No, I guess they did finish issue 1. And then by the time you get to issue 2, you get just unfinished artwork, no inks, no colors, definitely. Yeah, I didn't even get to finish that, and then you get the cover to issue 3. Squadron Supreme, this one's written by Mark Waid. We didn't even get to finish this. This would have been a cool series. So yeah, this issue, the first issue, didn't even get fully finished because we go from color to the script, the black and white, and here we alternate from ink pages to uninked pages to roughs. Because, it's up to the artist how they finish the pages. They don't have to do it in chronological order. They can draw however they feel, as long as they get the issue finished. Here's all your variant covers, and then Squadron Supreme number 2. So you get the idea of how this is collected. See what I mean by just little thumbnail sketches? And then you have one that I didn't even hear about. This is Storm Ranger. This is a character that appeared in Miss Marvel. The Saladin Ahmed series. As a matter of fact, this series is written by Saladin Ahmed. So if you're curious to see a comic book script to paper, how it's drawn, this is a really good collection for that because there's a ton of that back here. So you do get a lot of finished artwork in here, but no lettering or anything. Oh, that would have been cool. Gamora shows up in that. Again, they put the script there, along with the unfinished artwork. And Storm Ranger 3, wow, Solid Ahmed must have been way ahead of schedule. Alright, this is the one that breaks my heart and a lot of people's heart. Empyre, the Invasion of Wakanda, First Strike. And the reason why is because this was originally supposed to be published as a trade paperback with the final issues of Agents of Wakanda, which was a fun series. But this is the only place that you're going to get this unfinished little mini. There's issue number 2. And what's really cool... Oh, but before we look at what's really cool, here's Empyre, Invasion of Wakanda number 3 cover. And then Empyre Ghost Rider, Strike Force 10, which didn't even get a script or any artwork. But what's really cool is that they do end up collecting Agents of Wakanda 7 and 8 here. These were supposed to be, like I said, actually, they tell you here. These were supposed to be collected with the Invasion of Wakanda 3-issue miniseries. So they just stuck them back here for completist sake. So if you were a fan of that series, even if you've never read it, do yourself a favor and read it. It was so fun. And you'll go back and try to find that first trade paperback. As far as the extras in the back, here are all the variants. Not all of them. You saw some of the variants on the opposite side of the standard edition covers. But this is what the variants look like. And then you have character designs here, mostly done by Valerio Schiti. Alright, I think that's all I'll show because I don't want to spoil what else happens. And then you get this right here, which is Empyre Avenger 0 and Empyre Fantastic Four 0, which is also the cover to the standard edition of this omnibus. And you even get the plot and script here for issue 1 of Empyre. Again, if you want to see how the behind the scenes work and compare it to the finished product, the layouts, and compare that to the script. And then you go from pencils, inks, to colors. Now, let's take a look at this binding. 1,424 pages. Now, that is a big eye. That's what we want to see. The book was printed at the iMac printer in Turkey. So, the pages may seem a little thin, but honestly, compared to some of the ones in the past from last year, printed at the iMac printer, they're pretty good. I mean, they're not thick or anything. They're not Donnelly printer thick, but, I mean, they're good enough. None of the artwork, I didn't have any issue with the artwork coming through from the opposite page. And I've been reading this book, oh my gosh, for about a month and a half now. I didn't get to finish it, though. I didn't get to finish the miniseries that weren't finished to begin with. So I think I'm okay with that. But this is the way the book lays over. Let me see if I can find some spread pages. All right, let's look at this page right here with the Katati swordsman kicking the crap out of the Kree sentry. That's when he shows back up. So this is the way the book lays over. You're going to get some minor gutter loss right there. That's how big the book is and how the book is laying over. But very minimal. Not really a lot. Not anything to impact. Let's look in the middle of the book without spoiling anything. Probably one of my favorite spread pages I had to show from Savage Avengers. That's awesome. And from the back, we get this page right here from the She-Hulk one-shot. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing the book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this particular omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are going to pick it up, which cover you're going to get. If you've read the story, if you liked it, if it wasn't for you, what aspects of it did you enjoy? Did you enjoy the art as much as I did? Again, this was the Uncanny Omar, and if you have any more questions, please leave them down below. And I have a question. If you like this type of collection where halfway through something happened and one of the series was canceled, and you want to see as much of it collected as possible, even though it never really finished. For me, I think I kind of enjoyed that, even though I don't take it as part of the main crossover because the story was never done. I think it's really cool that they gave us the unfinished script, the unfinished pages. So I'd like to see more of that later on. Again, this was the Young Canadian Omar. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications. We are on Spreadshop and Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love.